Hello and hello and welcome back to the Kitchen Table Modelers Workshop. My name's Ian. It's my kitchen table where I do all my modelling. So a slightly different inbox review for you this week. Revell's 1 to 144 scale HMCS Snowberry Flower Class Corvette. A really interesting kit, I think, to come for Revell to produce. They've done quite a number of 1 to 144 scale ships in the past, but this is a revisiting of an old ship, an old set of molds that they bought from Matchbox when Matchbox went to the receivers, and that was the 1 to 72nd scale Matchbox Flower Class Corvette, and that was HMS Bluebell that kit was based around, and this is obviously HMCS Snowberry, which interestingly enough was in an option that you could make out of the old Matchbox 172nd kit. Now, Revell has subsequently released the 172nd Corvette in their own boxings. The mouldings haven't changed any. I actually have an old Matchbox moulding and a Revell reboxing, and the kit parts are exactly the same except for maybe a slight change in the grey styrene colour. But intrinsically it's the same kit, just modernized, and they've also done their platinum version on the 172nd, and they've done a platinum version on this 1 to 144 scale kit. But this is just simply the straight up boxing out of the box with the plastic and no extra additions. So enough waffling from me. Let's get it on the table, let's have a look and see what we get inside. So on the table, and as always, start with the box art. And I have to say, Revell's absolutely nailed this box art. Beautiful, beautiful rendering of the picture of the HMCS Snowberry doing what she was designed to do, escorting convoys in pretty inhospitable conditions. These vessels were workhorses of the convoy escort duties. They had a really hard life. The crews were exceedingly brave, and yeah, they suffered quite severe deprivations in protecting the convoys and getting them across from North America to Europe, and also from Britain up to the Arctic Circle to support Russia in the war effort. So kit number 05132, 1 to 144 scale, 501 parts, overall length 43.9 centimeters. Look on the side, it is just the same as the top. And the ends are both just mirrors of the top, and as is the other side. So this is a level 5 kit, which means it's an advanced kit from Revell. Right, in the box we get a whole hush of grey sprues. We also get a clear sprue and the instructions. So let's set the sprues aside, let's have a look through the instructions and take it from there. There you go. So, beautiful colour picture of the finished model on the front of the instructions. So that's what you're going to get after quite a considerable bit of time of work, I would think. And Revell's instructions, a bit like Airfix, have come on leaps and bounds this last little while with the use of colour and really good labelling. So you've got the basic construction information here in every instructions, and then we move on to the paint callouts. These are obviously Revell paint callouts, but you can get specific Royal Naval and Canadian Navy wartime colours. I know White Ensign Models did a set, and there'll be other sets available from other paint manufacturers. Get a sprue layout, and then on page 6 it should be starting the construction. Final sprue layout, and then we're on to construction. So part 1, we're looking at the rear hull. Now this is the depth charge passageways and obviously gunnel flaps. So that's obviously an add-in bit. Construction step 2, we build the hull, got the prop shaft in and the rudder in, and a support which also has part of the superstructure for the rear deck into the main deck, and then we put the deck in on the hull. So it's quite a rapid construction. You're going to get the hull together. We've got the stand, prop going on, got the bilge keels going on, and then we're into building the rear sort of deck housing. This will be over the engine room and probably galleys and stuff like that. Depth charge and depth charge racking, more depth charge and depth charge racking, and then moving on to step 10, we've got depth charge racking finally coming together and then going down onto the deck, and that's left and right or port and starboard if you're a naval man. And then we've got spare depth charges going on top of the racking, and we're starting to get some deck fittings going on. So you've got some breather pipes and some fastening points. Excuse me for my lack of naval terminology, but yeah, I'm no expert, so I don't claim to be. We've got a derrick here, or davit even, and possibly a little capstan winch going on. Stairway, stern anchor, another breather or air vent tube. We've got some thrown depth charges here, and then the depth charge launcher. So we've got that for both sides. So quite a lot of depth charges, and depth charge was one of the primary weapons against U-boats when they were fighting them in the North Atlantic. Other deck fittings, passageway, and then we're moving on to anti-aircraft protection here on the bottom of this page. So we've got some Lewis guns, we've got an Oerlikon, and then we're moving on to some more main, probably engine room vents. Okay, so moving on, we have winches and deck fittings. We've also got a hatch cover there. We've got skylights going in the hatch covers. More probably breathers going above decks, and then we're moving to putting the Oerlikon mount onto the rear deck. Air vents for the engine room, probably ammunition lockers, hatchways in the picture, there we go. Right, then we're moving on to railings, gangways, more railings, main funnel, Carly floats, Carly float going onto the holders, releaser, and then that's obviously port side, starboard side, or whether we're on left and right. More Carly floats, lifeboat davits, final Carly floats. Okay, funnel going on top of the upper part of the superstructure of the engine room. We're starting to build here, with the looks of it, the forward wheelhouse. More exhausts, ladders for the funnels, air vents, ammunition lockers, sundries. We've got some handrails, hatch covers, lockers, breathers, lots and lots of deck fittings. Some folk might call them greeblies, but they're basically just the detail of the vessel. We've got another vent going on there, and we've got handrails to go on top of the superstructure. Some winches, more winches, ammunition lockers, handrails. Then we're on to the whalers, and that goes onto the main deck outside the engine room. We've got a companionway being built up here, locker, and then this will be going on top of the wheelhouse possibly, or the captain's cabin. Oh, it's elevated, it's going on the main deck anyway. This will be the floor of the captain's cabin. So we've got the sides, we've got the glazings, internal arrangements, more side arrangements. This is for the building up for the main, the fighting deck house basically on top. A lot of detail here, so lots of deck fittings here, more deck fittings. Okay, so this is the upper part of the main wheelhouse structure with side supports. It's a classic for these particular types of boat. Main compass and controls, telemorse, communication tubing, possibly front of the cabin, front of the wheelhouse even. We've got glazing going on, we've got handrails and side protection going on, and then we're moving on to the front Oerlikons. Now this device here, I can't remember, I think they called it Hedgehog, and it was for anti-aircraft, So some of them are anti-aircraft, some of them are anti-submarine, and it would fire all these rockets, and then they would either go up and come down with parachutes to foul aircraft, or they'd go up and come down at the sea and work as a depth charge. So more deck fittings, railings, searchlights, oarlicans, small deck fittings and life rings, and then this will be your, now correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Hufter, so that's high frequency direction finder housing. Some of them had them for ASDIC, which was the submarine detection, but I'm thinking this is possibly Hufter. We've got more splinter protection here, and you've got the Hufter mounting going down. Munition stores, the Hedgehog. This is again part of the Hufter arrangement, seen on most Allied warships. And then we're moving on to just weather shielding onto the front of the deck house. Main gun, it was a 6-pounder. Main gun area, and these things all around it are shells in the holders. We've got just general deck fittings, more deck fittings here, lots and lots of small deck fittings. This is where the detail is going to be, so where the time is going to take to build this model. Anchor winches, anchor chains, anchors, parts of the sort of breakwaters that's going to help keep the sea away from the fighting area of the ship. Jack staff, main mast, ladder up the main mast, stern staff for the white ensign, and then the rigging. And finally the paint scheme. So that's 24 parts to put 501 parts together. It's going to be a really in-depth build. We've got a red lead underhull, and then we've got this dazzle scheme with what seems to be like a pale white or an insignia white. We've got a sort of greeny grey, and then almost like a PRU blue. I'm sure you'll be able to get the right colours off the internet, but that's what Revell's given you, plus all the deck will fit in. So you've got the depth gauge on the bow, the pendant number both sides and on the stern, wooden deck here, grey decks, a little bit of wood deck there. Wow, really in-depth instructions. So let's go and have a look at the parts. May as well start with the first bag, which has got the whole parts in. Seems they are the biggest parts of the model. And first off, I have to say I'm reasonably impressed. Not jumping up and down with joy, but reasonably impressed. You have this classic plated hull look, and if you look at the 1/72 Snowberry model, or Bluebell, HMS Bluebell, the hull comes in 4 parts, and the join is roughly down here, which follows the hull plating. But it's a nice hard plastic. There doesn't seem to be too many mismolds, seam lines, mold lines, release lines. Minimal burring on it, a little bit of flash up on the top of the gunnels, but nothing that can't be taken away very easily. If we give it a quick test fit, we are talking a very quick test fit here. It appears that the hull isn't too badly warped, which can happen sometimes when you have double hull parts. There we go, get that clipped in. No, it's not going to happen. I'm rushing it. But anyway, the hull doesn't appear to be too warped, and if you look here, for those that like doing micro radio control vessels, a lot of this has been taken out here, so it wouldn't be too much work to strip that out and put in a stern tube to build this up as a small radio control vessel. Anyway, it's a really good size. It's a lot bigger as a 1/350 scale one would be, so it's going to be a fantastic display model. Right, next, sprues. So we have the central support here, bulkhead, with some of the deck junction between the aft deck and the main deck. We have parts of the bridge superstructure here which look to be really finely moulded. I'm quite impressed with that. The ladders, again, they're well detailed, maybe a little on the thick side, but it is limitations of moulding. It's all got fine mould seams, junction marks here. The ejection pins appear all to be on the rear where it's not going to be seen. Now if we look at this one, we've got a 2016 Revel, so this is when it was built, so we're looking at a 5-year-old kit. Really nice rudder, one-piece rudder. A little bit of a burr mark there, don't know if you can see that on the camera. Nothing that's not going to be too hard to clean off. Bilge keels, and they've even got the anodes on them to help prevent corrosion, so it's a nice little detail. And you've got two parts of the stand there. Next sprue in that bag is the forward wheelhouse section, and this is the upper section where you'll have the compass and the sort of fighting controls. You've got the classic bridge support structure here, which there's room to thin it down a little bit. It may be a little heavy moulded, but again we're talking plastic here. You're never going to get the finesse of photo etch, but all the same it's nicely detailed. You've got some more parts here for the forward superstructure, and you looks to be the funnel ladder here, or the mainmast ladder. It's quite thin and it's reasonably in scale. Front breakwater and propeller, again not too bad for seam marks, a little bit of cleaning up needed, but it's all within parameters for a kit of this scale. Now we've got some thread here which, if we run that through a bit of candle to make sure it didn't have any fluff on it, would be really nice. It's very thin, fine and in scale, and should work nicely for handrails and the like. Rigging, I may actually use a bit of elastic thread just to get that fineness and completely assure me that there's not going to be any fluff from the string. Right, second bag. So 2 sprues in the second bag. We've got a Sprue J which has a Carly float on, which is nicely detailed for the scale. We've got winches here and we've got minute Lewis guns, and they really are minute. Again, for the scale, they're okay. They're not bad at all. A little bit of flash. We've got obviously some extra parts here to make sure the plastic went through the mold properly. It's going to take a little bit of clean up, but nothing that's insurmountable. A little bit of flash in there on the depth charges. Again, a sharp scalpel, see that gone, no bother at all. Nicely moulded sprue. Then we move on to Sprue. Ooh, can't even find the tag on this one. Sprue Eye. Right, so this is one side of the stand. We've got all the depth charges here that goes in the rear depth charge racks. We have also got the depth charges here that goes along the side of the rear superstructure. We've got the whaler here, which, to be honest with you, it's pretty basic, but again I think with a little bit of TLC and some painting it will come up nicely. And then we've got survival rafts here. We have some of the deck hatches that are really quite dainty. They're finely moulded with a bit of a wash. They should weather up quite nicely. And some of these possibly lockers here, or in fact no, these will be the splinter bags to go alongside of the wheelhouse. Again, they're finely moulded. There's little in the way of material detail, but for the scale they're not too bad at all. We've got some of the deck derricks and cranes here. We've got the anchor. We've also got winches and the depth charge dispensers for the side of the rear superstructure. All nicely moulded. A little bit of flash, quite a bit of cleanup when removing extra moulding sprues. But the sprue gates are fine, and for what you pay for this kit, it's not too bad. I'll be quite honest with you. We're modelers here, so we do, you know, there's a certain level of skill that's going to be needed to complete a model of this size and parts and scale. This isn't for a beginner by any stretch of the imagination. Next bag we have the rear decking, which is nicely curved. See that curve to the shape of the deck? If we look at the fittings on it, it's really nice, nicely moulded. We've got all these rackings here for the depth charges. We've got half a funnel. Got some more of the racking for the rear depth charge. We've got the front splinter shield for the 6-pounder of the main armament, which if we look on the inside has got, oh, I don't know if you can see that, get that to focus, the light in there, there's 2 reasonable size ejector pin marks, which probably once we get the gun built you're not going to see very much of, but they are there and they maybe need to be taken care of. We've got the top of the funnel here, rear anchor, lots of different deck fittings, which to be fair are all really nicely detailed. If you look at where the hinges on the hatches and stuff are and the latches, they're all there. When you a little bit of dry brush and a very light wash will absolutely pop, so there's no reason why you can't make a really detailed model out of this. This bits here and here will be wooden deck. For all the size of them there, it's not worth getting a wooden veneer deck. It'd be well just to paint them and use a bit of oil washing techniques to make them look like wood. That's probably what I'll be doing. And then we've got the main armament here, in two halves, so a bit of careful joining should see the 6-pounder come together and make a decent gun. Now, next sprue in this bag is the main deck. So we've got again the wood deck in here, which to be honestly a lot of that's going to be covered by where the main armament is. We've got all the hawser tubes for the anchors, which hopefully we'll be able to go right through. If not, we can make them go right through, just to increase the realism if you want. We've got the housings for the whalers. This raised area here, which is on the main deck and the rear deck, I think was a non-slip walkway. Now if I remember rightly it was called Semtex, not the high explosive, but just the sand type covering on the deck to help the guys from slipping in foul weather and cold conditions. Lots of deck fittings here, lots of ladders, lots of handrails, some of it very fine. This is the anchor chain here, actually really quite fine. It can be replaced and I may replace it, although I may just use it out of the box. We'll just see how it goes. All really quite nice, to be honest with you. All the ejector pin marks are on the rear of stuff, and not in any place you might see them, so again that's not going to be a problem, so it should build up into a nice model. Right, we're nearly there. Next bag is more deck fittings and superstructure parts. So another big sprue with big parts. So you've got the sides of the rear deck fitting and then the roof of the rear deck fitting, all really nicely moulded. Again, no or very little flash, minimal burring, although there's going to be a reasonable bit of clear up when you have to cut off all these excess plastic run channels, just to make sure that all the plastic ran through the mould properly. You've got the base of the 6-pounder, again very nice. It's actually quite sharp when you rub your finger over it, so it's crisp detail. Minimal burring, not too bad to clear up. We've got the other side of the funnel, and we've got this rear part of the hull here, which doesn't look to be too bad. It'll be interesting to see how it goes together when we build it, if it fits well or if we have to do a bit of fettling. My thoughts is we'll probably have to do a little bit of fettling, but all in all quite nice parts. Right, last main sprue, which is a copy of the sprue we had before with the side of the stand, and then we've got all the depth charges, deck fittings, whalers, Carly floats. So I'm not going to take that out of the bag because we've seen that before, but what we do want to see, if I can find them, is the clear parts, nicely in their own bag, and it's nice soft plastic as well, so that should keep them from being burred up and scratched. And we'll get them out. And there we go. Clear parts. They are clear. Now to be fair, this part here for the huffed off section, you're not going to see much through it. It's quite thick and cloudy, I suppose. For its scale and for what it is, it's okay, but it's not the best. The rest of them are not too bad. Again, for the scale, you're never going to see much behind them. They're only representing glass, and that's what they do very well. I would say that the bits you're going to see, you're going to get that glazed shine off them. but if there's much detail behind them, you're really not going to see much, which in this case you're not. I mean, for these skylight hatches, all you're going to see is black because the hole's all closed in, and pretty much the same for the cabins and the sort of lower forward superstructure. You won't be able to see any detail inside, but that's no problem. It is what it is. It's just a representation. It's a very small scale at 1 to 144. If it was a 1 to 72nd, you would hope for better glazing and more detail. Whereas this one, you just really, it's an exterior kit, unless of course you want to go to the trouble of purchasing a photo etch kit to make it better. So there we go. That's all the parts and the instructions. Let's get the camera back up onto the box and me, and we'll sum up for final thoughts. So there we are. Revell's 1 to 144 scale HMCS Snowberry Flower Class Corvette naval escort vessel. Thoughts? Great kit. To be honest with you, for the price point, it's about £45 UK if you're buying it retail. I got this one considerably cheaper. Unfortunately, I bought it off eBay. I tend to buy a lot of my kits off eBay. But if you're buying full retail, it's a bargain, to be honest with you, for the level of detail, the parts count, the complexity of construction. This is going to be a kit that's not for a novice, possibly for an intermediate, but definitely for an experienced modeler, and it's going to give you chance to really hone your skills at working with small parts and really bring in the detail out in a kit. My plans for this kit is to build it straight out of the box, and I'm actually thinking of trying to build this reasonably soon. I'm just nearly finished the IDF Naglahon, and I'm kind of getting burnt out on armour, so I'm thinking this might be an interesting build just to throw myself into to see how we get on with it. Now, there are lots and lots of options for this kit. Not only does Revell do the premium or platinum version that has the wood veneer decks and the full photo etch kit, which I think possibly will be the Edard photo etch kit. It might not be, I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong, but anyway, they have the platinum edition. Edard do 3 photo etch sprues for this kit. They retail at £30 a piece, which is quite expensive, to be honest with you. You're going to pay more for the photo etch as you are actually for the kit itself. And then Pontos does a full detail set for this kit, which would include resin fittings, photo etch brass, replacement fittings for quite a substantial amount of the superstructure, funnels and such like, and they also have the wood deck veneer. So if you want to go whole hog, you can buy the Pontos kit. Again, in the UK, you're looking at probably £100 or more for the Pontos kit, which is more than double the cost of the kit in the first place. Interesting enough, if you want to see a modeler build this kit with the Pontos kit, if you go over to the model shed and see Steve over there, he's recently started this very kit and he's building it with the Pontos set, and I've been watching him as he's been going along, and I have to say it looks fantastic, absolutely stunning, a huge piece of work, but I can see why he's opted to go for the Pontos kit to really increase the level of detail on this kit. Myself, however, I'm thinking I'll need to build this straight out of the box, just as a compare and contrast really. I really admire Steve and the work he does, but it's interesting to see how an ordinary modeler can build this kit with no added extras and just modelling skill, painting techniques and just general sort of ability. So that's my plans for this kit, and I'm hoping to start this reasonably soon as well as a full video build, just so we can build along. I wholeheartedly recommend you go over to the model shed, and I'll link his build in my description below, and give him a follow, give him a subscribe. And he's got other model kit builds on that channel. He's just finished the 1/200 scale HMS Hood with the full Pontos full kit, and it is absolutely stunning, so well worth a visit. But anyway, so yeah, that's the inbox review and sprue tour of Revell's 1 to 144 scale HMCS Snowberry. Now, if you've got any comments or questions, please put them down below. I always read any comments that are put down, and I really appreciate anybody taking the time to give me a shout and ask a question. I will answer you. Might not be straight away, but I definitely will answer you. If you also like what I'm doing here, feel free to like and subscribe. I appreciate that. If not, it's not a problem. I'll still keep doing it. I really enjoy doing this. So until next time, guys, happy modeling, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.